Hello, Muse here. I want to talk about something that I've had on my mind for quite a while now, which is that music doesn't happen overnight. I am sure this is pretty much common sense for everybody, right? Any skill, whether that be playing an instrument, playing a sport or a video game, even something like toning your body so you're physically the best version of yourself. All these things won't happen overnight, which is old news, of course, but what I want to talk about are a few topic questions I think everyone asks themselves after a certain point in their musical journey. Don't think about careers or how you'll make money, but to just ponder the idea of what you want your music to eventually mean, either to you or to someone else. Ultimately, you want to use it as a means to express yourself, sure, but what else? If that is all you want to do, then that is okay, but I think you will find that the longer you go down that road, you will eventually want to share your music with other people. Personally, I have met very few individuals who make music quite literally only for themselves. For example, they don't really share it, they don't publish it, they don't even write it down. They just play what they created whenever they want and call it a day. But for other people, even the most meaningless pieces of art that they create, they want to share it. But the reason this process takes so long is because what you want to do with music changes, sometimes from season to season. Maybe you want to create an album detailing an abusive relationship or whatever. Or maybe you want to create an album expressing different variations of sadness or joy. Maybe you want to make an album full a cappella or just instrumental. I'm going to use myself as an example, but when I first started with music, it was because I wanted to make dubstep like Skrillex. To me, Skrillex was nothing like I heard on the radio, movies, or TV, or anything. So within the next few months, I downloaded FL Studio and got to it. This is how it all started, but now I don't even want to make dubstep. I want to make pretty much anything and everything. I just want to quite literally make music. I don't necessarily care what genre or category it fits into. I just want to make something that I am proud of. Of course, that all comes with wanting people to listen to it, obviously, and connect with others too. But in the grand scheme of things, that kind of comes secondary to what I want to do with it. From my experience, asking what you want to do with music is kind of a trick question because what you want to do with music is to just make music. You shouldn't necessarily care about what you want to do with it specifically, like, oh, I want to make neocore Cajun folk music, which, if that's what you want to do, then good for you. But what I want to get across is that you should not overthink the premise of music. Don't think about the time signature, don't think about the key, the rhythm, the genre, or anything really. Just sit down either on your computer or with your instrument and just have at it. What you want to do with music will eventually come to you and blossom just like anything else. Some people are into bodybuilding because they love the aspect of seeing the best version of themselves. Some people do it because they were once overweight and fat and obese and they just didn't want to be that way anymore. Some people train specifically to run and to sprint as fast as you can and do something specific like in the Olympics. Likewise, some people do make music because they want to be famous. Other people make music because they want to relate to others in a very specific manner, and the list goes on. So, my advice, don't stress about it too much. Just you do you. So, this is a pretty hot topic in the world of music because it is something we all have to consider. How do I make my mark in a music industry with millions of artists uploading tens of thousands of songs a day, every day? Answer, you don't. So you better rev up those fires, baby, because you ain't making. Just kidding. In my opinion, the best way to find your sound is to learn from other artists and understand how they compose their music. In a way, you should quote unquote trace others' music and meld in your own style to it. Similar to tracing others' art, maybe you shade a bit differently, maybe you flick your wrist at the end of a stroke a bit differently, giving it a character different from the original, and so on. Please don't take this out of context. I am not saying you should plagiarize or copy other artists, but to listen to their melodies and think to yourself, how would I sing this melody? Maybe instead of staying on the fifth, you move down to the third. Maybe instead of a major 4 chord, you go for the minor 4, and so on. You essentially have to be your own teacher when it comes to this because it will belong to you. A little history example for those who aren't convinced. Beethoven had Joseph Haydn as his teacher when he was first composing. And even in early Beethoven, you can absolutely see and hear similarities between both the composers in terms of form, motif, and thematic material. But when you listen to them both, one after the other, you can tell there is something different about Beethoven's music compared to Haydn's. The contrast becomes even greater as Beethoven matures and develops as a standalone composer. For those who still aren't convinced, here's a more modern example. Yes, JoJo Siwa. Her debut single quite honestly screams edgy 2010s energy akin to artists like Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus. For some context, Lady Gaga was basically this icon for the weird and misunderstood, and her musical aesthetics along with her fashion choices was meant to exemplify that theme. Normal people enjoyed her music too, obviously, but the shock value was meant to attract the eccentric in society. Miley Cyrus, on the other hand, wanted to get rid of her reputation as a Disney star in order to be taken seriously in her journey as a musician. The Wrecking Ball song was symbolic in that she was trying to destroy this image we had of her as a family-friendly Disney pop star. There were many artists as well that did this in the past alongside those aforementioned. So what was wrong with JoJo Siwa? JoJo Siwa didn't just try to replicate the metamorphosis similar to Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus, but she did so with the most lackluster take on the I'm different theme ever. Like in Karma, she's basically saying she's a bad girl who's into some things. And Guilty Pleasure doubles down on this idea that she's bi and we have to deal with it. Like, this may have made waves in 2010, but being bi or gay was kind of a big deal back then. But since then, we have experienced such a culture shift that being bi or gay or anything else along the spectrum is kind of whatever now. What she is going for is just not on people's minds anymore. Neither is that kind of preppy vibe she portrays in her music. Plus, the music she is trying to go for is just so 2010s, where pop artists would toss in basic sawtooth synths and bass stabs to permeate the verse and chorus. We have more hyperpop, Jersey Club, and funk to look at when it comes to electronic influence on pop music. And JoJo Siwa pretty much has none of that in her songs. To be fair, I think JoJo Siwa understood this concept of trying to be divisive and unapologetic about it, but she lacked in trying to distinguish herself from other artists in the current music sphere. Instead, she just feels like the at-home version of Lady Gaga or something, and even then that might be a bit too generous. Likewise, when you have people like Chappelle Roan taking center stage in the queer music community, you have to do a lot more than just be loud and come out as gay. The point I want to make with JoJo Siwa's case is that it is perfectly fine to copy the strategies of others, but don't make it obvious who and where you are copying from, and at the very least make it relevant to the current musical sphere. In reality, you have to look to others for inspiration, but don't try to be them. Just be yourself. You have to lose yourself when making your own music. How you are meant to sound will slowly bud just like anyone else in the music industry. And it will manifest in the sound of your music, form, and themes you want to surround yourself with. The typical advice would be to just keep making music. Practice makes perfect is basically the catchphrase for music. You just sit in a corner for hours every day and just grind out the process. While it is true you have to put in the hours, especially if you want to learn an instrument, that is not the whole truth. For example, let's say you are at a decent spot with your music. You can sing pretty well and you can accompany yourself with an instrument. You've found your style and you enjoy making music for the sake of music. You've released a few singles, an EP, or even an album. Maybe they even did pretty good on numbers and streams. So now what? For some, this is enough. They did what they wanted to do and now maybe they move on to another hobby. But for those who are wanting to do more with music, here is some advice I found to be helpful. 1. Listen to a lot of different music, and in my experience, listen to classical music. I know this might sound biased, but it is the honest truth. Classical music has some of the richest and deepest lore you'll ever find. Composers like Beethoven, Chopin, Bach, and Mozart are a few of the many giants of Western classical music. Listen to how they navigate their melodic themes, listen to their harmonies and cadences, Listen to the rhythms and lyrics as well as the dynamic expressions. I can almost promise you will look at music through a different lens when it comes to your musical journey. Not just because it is a different sound, but because you are going back to the roots of Western music. Of course, classical music isn't all you should listen to, but it is just what I personally would recommend. At the end of the day, you have to listen to anything and everything that catches your attention. Dive deep into new genres and binge old and upcoming artists' music. But also don't forget to just listen to it for the experience. Close your analytical side of your mind and just be in the moment. 2. Always try something new. You don't have to be reckless with your music and compose seemingly random songs of different genres, but the idea is to keep an open mind with music. Experiment, even with something small like beginning with the ending of a song first. You don't have to try a new genre of music if you don't want to, but you have to do something to break habits, even if they aren't actually bad habits. Keep yourself on your toes. One day try to start from the beginning and the next try starting from the bridge or the chorus. Take it up a notch and try switching up your melodic patterns. Try a new harmonic progression, for example. Try a new theme, like instead of writing a love song, write a breakup song, or a song about a crush you have or had in the past. Let's say you try out something new and it's awful.
I'm with SpongeBob, racing down the Autobahn while I'm in the backseat trying to fuck Megatron.
Well, you don't have to release everything you spent your time on because then you distort your original purpose. Enjoy the process and just experiment, and be creative. You can always learn something new or do the same thing, but in a new way. 3. Finally, try dancing to music. I know this might be unusual, but music moves people, emotionally and physically. The act of creating music requires you to be vulnerable emotionally because you are expressing your inner self through sound. But maybe you are not expressing yourself through movement. Rock out to either your own music or to whatever you are listening to. Sway with the music, nod your head, and move your whole body. And I mean, to hell with it, twerk to it too if you want to. The reason for this is because song and dance are a match made in heaven. Knowing how your body moves to music will help you understand, as a listener, what moves people, and as a musician, how to move people. I'm not saying your music should center around trying to make them dance, but if you can understand music at its most base effect on people, you will become more conscious of the natural ebb and flow of music. In conclusion, no, music does not happen overnight, but over many, many nights. You will go through bouts of frustration and anger because what you are making doesn't sound how you want it to. You will be filled with doubt and fear that your music will never be good enough to you, let alone to an audience. You may even give up at one point, but hopefully your love for music will bring you back to your feet to try again, even if it is just one more time. And at the very least, you have to believe in yourself. Even if you have no fans right now, you have to be your own #1 fan. As the saying goes, today is the first day of the rest of my life, so make it count. Hello everyone, you have made it to the end of the video. I genuinely have been wanting to make this video for a long time, and I am glad I was finally able to do so. Part of the reason is that I have come across many videos talking about music, specifically that music in general has been going downhill, which, I personally don't think it has, but that's a different topic. Just for today, I wanted to kind of dive a little bit into a different aspect of music that people don't necessarily talk about, apart from something that'll get you like how to generate views, or something like, how to develop a chorus or how to develop a bridge, all those kind of technical aspects. I feel like there are many videos out there that explain those kind of concepts way better than I could. So I just wanted to go into a more kind of philosophical approach to things, or a more practical approach to how you can develop yourself as a budding musician. And I hope this video helped you in some way or another. Even if it doesn't, I appreciate you staying until the end anyways. If you did enjoy this video, please feel free to like the video, maybe comment something that helps you develop your sound, develop yourself as a musician. And maybe if you want to hear similar content from me, then feel free to hit that subscribe button too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video.